15, the meeting will come to an order. Let's please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Enough. Thank you, everybody. Roll call today shows that everyone is present for today's meeting. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes of the January 22nd, February 5th, and 7th, 2024 meetings, approval of bills and claims, licenses and permits, including renewal of Class B retail alcohol license for Dollar General Store number 2756, renewal of Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service and catering for Wasted Grain Bar and Grill, and a new Class C retail alcohol license, 8-month, with outdoor service for Golf Services LLC, and applications for tax abatement under the Carroll Urban Revitalization. If there's no discussion, can we have a motion to approve those?
Second.
By Tom, approved by Tom.
Second.
By Jason. And move to a roll call vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Strack? Yes. Romero?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, are there any oral requests from the audience or communications that anyone would like to speak here about anything that's not on the agenda this evening? Nothing? All right. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances. The first one we have is the ordinance establishing vacant property code, second reading.
Yeah, Council, this is the second reading of our vacant property code. At this time, we haven't received any communications for and against at the city office regarding this new ordinance.
Any discussion from council on this?
I do. I was gone last time when this was voted on, but I think our goal with this was to eliminate properties or houses that were sitting empty. My personal feeling is $500 should be a minimum, and it should go up from there. I think 500. I'm gonna use Burger King building for example. That building's been sitting empty for probably safe to say 4 years, and it just sold with a very lucrative net lease on it, which will probably be sitting for another 2 years. 500. I look at that building, for example. I don't think $500 is enough to get those people to move to do something with that building. My personal feelings on that.
So what's your plan?
I think you have to. I like the 1% of assessed value. If the building's not listed or the house isn't listed for sale.
Or the only thing is on a lot of these vacant homes, the assessed value is $12,000. That's only $100.
But if you put a minimum in,
Yeah,
I mean, if
we'd
you have a
have to do that.
$500 minimum, I mean, some of these vacant homes have been sitting in these neighborhoods for 6, 7, 8 years, which is not fair to these neighbors.
I kind of agree with you. If you put a minimal clause of $500 or 1% of whichever one is greater, I don't think that I would really see a problem with that, I guess.
1% of the assessed value?
Yes.
Okay.
So to be clear, $500 or a minimum of 1% or 1% of the assessed value, whichever is greater. Do you want to go to, after the second year, do 750 or just leave it at that for simplicity's sake?
So you're saying 500 minimum for the year 1, year 2 it jumps to 750 as a minimum, but still leave a 1% in there?
That's I'm asking the question. I don't know.
I think you have to put a little fire under their rear end to do something with this. Otherwise, they're not going to.
Yeah, we've also talked about this as being a motivator for somebody that has a vacant property to ultimately, this isn't a snatching land or anything. It's to motivate somebody to keep that property moving in the right direction. We've talked about economic development and things of that nature and just housing to nauseum. It's time to kind of put our, put your money where your mouth kind of is, I guess, and get this ball kind of rolling is what my suggestion is. And so I kind of agree with you on that one, Kyle.
It's kind of like a backup or another plan like we did rental housing inspection. Now, you know, a lot of that is being, if you look, a lot of the homes are getting remodeled, you know, because we did that. You know, we put a fine on them if they didn't have it fixed. But the advantage to that, what I've been getting feedback from, is the neighbors around that home are really appreciated that we put that, you know, that into effect. This will be the same type of thing, except there's nobody living in these.
You know, in the residential area, I look at the neighbors that are around it, but I look at, I'm gonna go back to the Burger King building. We've had many nuisance ordinances with lawn, the way that building looks. If we want Carroll to be warm and welcoming, that building is not warm and welcoming. And it's something that can be utilized.
Yeah, and the problem with the Burger King building is we are never going to be able to find them out of that. I mean, the way that whole lease is set up is, I mean, you have, I think, an assessed value of $900,000, plus you have residual income coming from it for the next 2 years of 100 and, do you remember what it was, Aaron? 100 and something.
60?
$160,000.
Might even
And
be
so,
more than that.
yeah, that Burger King, we're eating that Burger King.
It's just an
building for a
equity
while.
firm that holds it,
Yes,
that'll
it's
sit
an
empty
equity
for 2
firm that
years.
now can borrow against that money, plus they're getting residual income on it, and so, but yeah, I do agree with you that we don't want to find ourselves in that situation again, where we have that building, and so maybe a little bit, increasing that value would prevent us from running into where we're stuck with Burger King for now 5 years vacant.
So let's define that, though. You look at what you're going after. You're talking about the Burger King building. But there's plenty of other empty buildings. Where do you cross the line as far as your definition that you're looking for nuisance buildings?
I think if it's not listed for sale or something working on it, I
Okay.
mean, a period of time, I mean, like, I think we can all agree something sitting empty for 4 years isn't something that we want.
It's got to be listed at sale
No,
for.
I'm just, where's the line at? Where do you define what's a nuisance?
In the ordinance now, it's listed as for sale or lease, and you have a year before it's considered a vacant property. After that year, then it becomes a vacant property,
Starting now.
starting now.
Okay.
Or once we get past the third reading and then
Aaron,
it's
repeat that
published.
again.
Once you list it, well, as we pass this ordinance, and Dave, you can help me if I'm wrong, you can list it either for lease or for sale for a year before you have to list it as or register it with us as a vacant property.
Okay, yeah.
And then obviously if nuisances and stuff come about, that aids our cause in this case.
So there's a year gap there that kind of will help with the transition.
Kinda
into this.
eases us
This
into it,
isn't
too.
come tomorrow we vote on this and everyone's got to register, so you have a year to kind of, change is inherently hard and tough, and so I want to make sure there's a amount of time that is there. But I do agree that I think that the value, we may need to look at the value of what the fines are to incentivize somebody to, as we all know, costs are going up. And so,
So I still think too, though, if the building becomes a nuisance, we will deal with it in that
Oh,
first year.
yes,
without-
absolutely.
If that's kind of what you were meaning. If we
I don't mean it as a nuisance, I just mean as an empty building that's sitting there that's ultimately stifling the economic growth of our community has to be addressed. And I hate to put one building on it, or whatever building it is,
Oh,
but
that's-
you get,
that's one.
there are certain buildings that you get that are vital for our economy. And it's almost, the view of the community views it as, man, this building's empty, this town is going down. We need to do something about that, I think. And so I do kind of agree that, I don't know if $500 is gonna be enough to get somebody to move.
Okay, when a lot of these are in Ward 4, when I was going door to door, the neighbors commented, well, there is one on Maple Street, a big yellow one on the corner that's been vacant according to neighbors who tried to buy it for over 10 years. And it is a mess. and the person who owns it does not live in Carroll. Anyway, I started looking up all the vacant houses in Ward 4, and most of the assessed value, taxable value, was at, like, they range between 20, 30,000. So you figure 1%, that's way under 500 bucks. I'm all for incentivizing them to do something, fix it up, sell it, get it on our property taxes, so we're gaining, taxable value. But I agree, we need to be aggressive, but most of these houses aren't worth
Yeah, but
much
I
at
think if we
all.
throw, and we're not, we can go over specific houses and stuff, but some of these houses are assessed over. If, that's why there's a $500 cap, like we're not going below $500,
yeah,
but.
A minimum, yeah.
Or
That'd be
minimum
where it is, a
$500.
minimum.
And then we can go on assessed value from there. Because some of our commercial real estate that is sitting there empty, and some of them have been empty for a very long time, their assessed value, guess what? It's more, it's gonna cost more. I mean, that's just, and I think it's fair.
You want it to read $500.
As a minimum, my thought would be 500 is a minimum.
$500 or 1% of assessed value, whichever is greater.
Yep.
Would that not be the right way to?
That's how
Okay.
you understand that, Dave? So with
I
this,
didn't, I
so,
didn't jot down Kyle's language.
Okay.
But here, I'll backtrack here a little bit. Council has already approved the first reading of what you have in front of you, that ordinance. If you're going to now change part of the ordinance, you're gonna have to start over.
Right, you negate
okay?
the first
You're gonna
one.
You'll have to have the first reading. If we can articulate the change that council wants to make tonight, I think you could pass the first reading of the new ordinance. Just call it the new ordinance, okay? Because it sounds like there's only a sentence or two change that needs to be made, as I'm hearing the discussion.
so as I understand it, and you can correct me wrong, we're going to have a $500 registration fee or 1% of the value, whichever is greater
The assessed value.
of the assessed value.
So,
I-
Total assessed value, including land and building.
I think it should
Yes.
be,
Better be specific as we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, better be
Yeah.
I
more
think it's clear,
specific.
something where they can go to the assessor website, see my value, like, I'm gonna pick on the Burger King building, cause that's an eyesore, and that's why I go back to, that value for that property is $927,000.
so my question to you, J.C. Penney's is empty, are you gonna start charging them the same thing? The sports store that's empty, are they getting charged the same thing for being empty? You're gonna give them a year and say either fill it or start paying?
I think if they're not listed for sale, is one thing, and that's,
They have to be sold, right? Isn't that the way it reads?
Well,
You have a year
listed for
to sell 'em?
sale, utilities are a,
See, I thought we would looked into this, I thought the utilities weren't hooked up, that's why we were going
and that
after
Burger
this.
King, I don't think, do they have utilities there?
I believe the water was shut off after the water.
That's what I'm talking about.
But J.C. Penney's, I think, still has utilities.
Correct, so that's why I'm saying, where do we
So
define
there's
this?
a line there, I would say.
There's a
that.
line, where's
There,
the line
yeah,
at?
if you have, I guess if you have utilities hooked up and things of that nature, then, I mean, is that really
I don't think it
defined
should
as a?
fall into
It
the
should,
vacant
probably should
category.
not fall under the vacant category.
So if I have an old home that's been abandoned for 4 years and I hook up my water, I'm good to go.
Water, electric, gas?
Water,
are they all
electric,
hooked
I'm
up?
trying
Gas.
to read here, we gotta be a devil's advocate.
Yeah, water, electric, gas, and then if they're not
And if I
maintained,
still do nothing, you can't touch me,
Well,
because
if
I
they're
got
not-
water hooked up.
well, if they're not maintaining it, then we enforce the nuisance violation at that point.
Well, we would do that
We- we're-
anyway.
we're-
We don't
yeah.
need this for that.
We don't need that, but I mean, then we fall back on an ordinance that we already have. It is, and we just, we implement the enforcement of that original order.
Laverne, I see what you're saying is, hey, if I wanna avoid paying this fee, I just go hook up my water and here I am, I'm good.
There's no charge for that.
Yeah, $40 or $45 deposit and. your
There's a
monthly
minimum
service fee.
charge for all the services,
But
whether
then
you
I'm
have
good
it
to
on or
go
not.
year after year after year, as long as I got my water hooked up and you can't touch me with this ordinance.
Well, that's where I'm going. That's
Yeah,
why I'm
that's where-
saying, we
yeah.
have the J.C. Penney's building, we have the sports store that's not filled up right now. Are they gonna get treated the same way?
I think we do need to think a little longer on this.
Laverne, if
You
you
have
look at
plenty
the,
of places in the mall
What do you
that are
got,
the same
Dave?
way, you know?
I think if
But
you
those
look
are
at the
for lease.
definition of a vacant building, that will help you out.
Where's that at?
That is under definitions, 159.02, and then go to page 3.
Vacant building?
So,
A
so,
through
yeah,
E?
so the definition, the building has to be vacant and unoccupied and meet at least one of the following items, A, B, C, D, and E. So if it's an unsecured vacant building, it would qualify, or if it's unoccupied and is unsecured, then it would qualify for a vacant building. If it's unoccupied and it's declared unfit for occupation by our city officials, it's a vacant building. So my only point is, Laverne, if it's vacant or unoccupied and they go hook up the water, that's not gonna get them off the hook.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
You have a completely dilapidated building. Number one, I don't know if the city would, in that instance, would even turn the water on.
Okay.
If the, if the building is in that bad a shape. But, so there's other options that qualify it as a vacant building, not just hooking up the water.
Okay, that explains that.
That was my understanding too.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was like these nice buildings that just somebody hasn't bought yet. It's, these are like buildings that, yeah.
So does that
Yeah.
fall in line with that then or not? That's all I'm asking is, would this policy affect those two businesses?
No, it wouldn't.
I don't believe
No,
so.
it would not affect those.
I'm
two
gonna let the
businesses.
attorney answer that.
Yeah.
Because they're for sale and they're,
That's what
they're
he's
ready
here
for it.
Yeah,
Right.
and it just doesn't qualify as vacant under our definition.
Right.
That's all I wanted to make sure,
Well, for starters, there's still work being done in the sporting goods.
Right.
I can't speak for pennies, but the other one is for sure yet. They're not done with clearing themselves out, so. Anyway, all right,
Got some it's
Yeah.
got some furniture and stuff on display there, so it
right.
might not
For
be.
sale.
But just to
so it's-
verify, if you're actively renovating something just because costs and things like that, I mean, I've seen that they can come to the city and be like, hey,
Yeah, yes,
interest rates have soared, we can't get this, like, this isn't, I hope that this isn't just, there needs to be somewhat of communication from the public to the city on what's going on, because we're not getting in the business of like shutting down contractors or anything else like that.
it would be, well, we wouldn't shut down contractor anyway, but we would work with them just like we work with them on nuisance abatement stuff.
Okay,
That would kind of lead me to my question on vacant lots. Like, if you come to town and purchase a vacant lot with the,
Vacant lots aren't in this ordinance, so we're not even addressing that.
we take that out?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Never mind,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm looking at the old one. Okay, never mind.
So, how much of this ordinance has been out in the public?
Since we've started, it's been on our website, it's been in our council packets. I think it's been in the paper once or twice, it's been on the radio a couple of times, so
Okay, so it's been out there enough.
aside from us going out and saying, hey, your property might have a problem,
It's,
which I don't know if it's our responsibility to go hold their hand that much.
Really, at the end of the day, the only people that are gonna complain about this are the ones that have something that's been sitting empty for a long period of time.
Correct.
And realistically, how many of those people probably don't even live here anymore? So, I mean,
oh, yeah.
They'll be getting a certified
Yeah.
letter.
that's gonna be the way that we notify them, right? I mean,
Yes.
we're a fool to think if somebody's gonna be mad.
We're not gonna be mad, is that what you said?
We're not gonna be mad or anything
Oh,
there
somebody
in
will be
between.
upset.
Like,
Well, this is another way of helping our housing stock.
Yes.
do I have to
Yes.
put re in there? Or
So
it says
I think what we
land.
need is a motion for a first reading regarding changing the fee structure. Correct, Dave?
Right.
Which would be, do you have
Let's be specific. Someone needs to read to the council the specific language that we're changing in this ordinance.
the,
Then I would say the council then approves that by motion, that additional language, and then we go back and approve the amended
reading.
ordinance for the first reading tonight.
Okay.
Well, I think we'll have to read 1% value.
I kinda
So
have
the
it written here.
registration,
Jerry may have some
I'll
language.
call for a motion reading it, but I do wanna get a clarification on whether we would need the land included or just 1% of assessed value, cause Laura brought that up, whether it includes
I think the
building or
assess-
land.
The assessed value does include both land and.
Okay, so by definition, assessed value,
that's what I was gonna say, total
assessed.
assessed value.
total assessed value. So we'll see if I get this right to your satisfaction. We're looking for a motion to change the registration fee to $500 or 1% of the assessed total value, whichever is greater.
Total assessed value, because it,
Total assessed
Total
value.
assessed, yeah, total assessed.
Put total assessed, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna read it again then. We're looking for a motion to change the registration fee to $500 or 1% of the total assessed value, whichever is greater. We're looking for that motion.
Per year?
Yes.
You don't have per
You
year?
don't need
It's
to
an
put that
annual-
in.
It's already in the.
Okay.
That's already,
Annually, yeah, annual assessment.
so is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion for that.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion by Kyle and second
Dave, how does that work for unregistered?
by Carroll.
We have
Sorry.
well, we just have a $750 late fee or
No.
what have you.
You're-
But in addition to the registration fee.
This is just more discussion.
So if we
That's, we're
catch,
fine.
yeah, if we catch somebody that doesn't have a registered, if it's an unregistered property, it would be the fine of
These are fees,
$750 plus the registration fee.
The interpretation should be pretty black and white. I don't want it to be.
Where's that at,
Where
Brad?
else would we need to change it? This is
15904
all.
subsection C.
It's on page 5.
I got it.
You have that page?
They want to increase the registration fee,
That's a different page.
which is $750. If they
we
can
need
register,
$750.
it's $750 plus.
But that's already worded in there, so I don't see where that
I
is.
think that's a fair number. They're still gonna have to pay the
Go ahead and
you know,
explain that.
$500 or the
We know
1%.
we
Yeah.
Made a motion
That-
on.
Yeah.
All right, Dave's gonna
Is it-
clarify this for us as to what will happen regarding the $750.
Tom, and I think we have answered that question of yours where if they don't register, there is just a $750 fee, and that is on top then of their registration fee of at a minimum 500 or 1% of the assessed value, whichever is greater. So you're tacking on $750 if they don't register.
Oh,
So in that line right there, we need to change that wording,
We gotta change
because it's only 500
He
bucks.
said we don't.
He wrote it.
We'll ask him.
So if you want to increase the fee for the unregistered property,
I think you put the 1% in there too. Otherwise, somebody's not gonna register. They'll pay the $750 and then get away with the $500
That's
bucks.
what I'm saying, like, I think you need to change the wording in that one,
In that sentence
in
also.
To
C.
include the original, yeah.
in the 750 is intended to punish, for lack of a better word,
Yep.
someone for not registering.
But after,
You want to make it more than 750?
no, I think the 750 is okay, but as you go on reading this, vacant property registration shall be $500.
Right, and that's what Jerry has read to you.
That would be added in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
that's right where we're adding, or 1%, whichever is
Okay.
greater.
That sentence already changed.
Yep.
All right.
That's what you
Registration-
motioned.
Yeah, the
and Carolyn
registration is an
Yeah.
annual fee.
Seconded.
Okay. The application is not a part of the ordinance, obviously, but we will need to change the wording, and that doesn't involve any new vote or anything. That can just, because you always said we have to correlate the two.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got to change the application form. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we do have a motion and and a second for the wording change.
Correct. And let's move to a roll call vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes,
Cornell?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes,
Shrek? Yes. Motion is approved.
All right. Okay, and then I'd be looking for a motion to approve the first reading to including the new changes that we just adopted.
Second.
And, okay, we had,
Kyle,
Tom and JJ is second.
I heard Kyle.
All right, let's move to a roll call vote on that, please.
Atherton?
yes,
Cornell?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
yes.
Shrek? Yes. Motion is approved.
Okay, and then we'll have that rewritten and presented by the next time. Okay.
As
All right.
approved tonight.
Okay. Moving on, we'll go to ordinance B, establishing a temporary portable storage containers ordinance.
As we discussed at the last council meeting, we did go out and find a few more properties, which Carolyn actually went and took more pictures of than what Dan did. So there's more pictures of those current storage container units. Kind of changed my opinion on how they're sitting, that I wouldn't grandfather any of them in. So we haven't had any contact from any general public regarding this, but that would be my recommendation to pass the ordinance as written.
I actually had contact, people saying, please get this enforced.
Now, when you say that though, what about the first one that we discussed grandfathering in? Because then we added are you
Actually,
saying,
the picture of that one,
Don't
I
discuss
wouldn't
that.
recommend grandfathering that one either. It was the picture that Dan took, it was actually a nuisance.
I assume that if we grandfather one, we have to grandfather them all?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing we have a problem with is under industrial. If you notice, the verbiage in our ordinance, if you notice the industrial I-2 zoned 314 Maple Street, in our proposed ordinance, it says that temporary portable storage container is permissible in all industrial districts, provided they are not stored, there's a list, and I won't read those, or in an area visible from the property's primary street. It is 100% visible. So that will have to, if you look at the photo, you can see it, and if you look at Dan's, it shows the back, then from the front, and you see that the storage is 100% visible, as well as some of the other stuff in the back that Dan captured in his photo. So that person is out of compliance with our ordinance. So they will have to be notified to be in compliance within the time frame, within 30 days of final passage of the ordinance. That's the only thing I see. But why I did that is I wanted to get a bigger perspective of how these are impacting other residences. And I'm thinking, you know, our goal is to clean up properties, not impact property values. We want to clean up the neighborhoods. So and if we grandfather them in, we're going to exacerbate the problem, and we're going to have more people doing like what you see in the housing next to them. Well, anyway, that's it. Thank you.
all right, is there any other discussion about the ordinance itself that anyone wants to bring up now?
After we pass this, how long do these people have? Time-wise, 30 days?
Yeah,
Yes.
yep.
What if weather is,
Yeah, can we push that to maybe a 90 day, just because we're in the middle of winter and,
We can administer that and be a little bit more lenient
okay, let's,
at the beginning.
I guess it's 90 days, would everyone agree with that? In the next 90 days they're gone, or do you want them quicker, or?
I don't know. I would leave it to the discretion, like where they're positioned, what, you know, just, the property itself, leave it up to staff.
But I guess we gotta be clear on, to the public, where their guidelines need to be. It says 30 days, and it's 30 days. If the discretion is gonna be 90 days, it's gonna be 90 days or 60 days, whatever day that we decide on it. I think going out to the public, it needs to be a line in the sand that that's where we're at.
Well,
Yeah, I think kinda-
we have to have 3 readings, so that extends it.
Okay,
I think your line in the sand is the 30 days.
okay.
I think the question was if there's extraordinary circumstances, like weather,
Okay.
10 inches of snow or something like that, that would literally prevent somebody from moving it.
Okay.
I think staff would take that into consideration.
You also can have in the spring where the ground is real soft and it tear up.
Yeah.
Yep. Since none of those are on a foundation,
Right.
just slapped in the yard.
So I did check with Dan, that if we kept these, do you have to have footings and bolted down like you do a garage? And they are just under the requirements for that by just a little bit, so they don't have to have footings.
Under what requirement is that?
Well, if you build a garage or so, you gotta have footings and bolt your building down to it.
Based on their size, you mean? Oh, okay.
It's just under, so they can be freestanding.
If these are sitting on a commercial property, which the taxes are about double residential property, are we requiring these storage containers to be sitting on some kind of a concrete foundation?
Because most of them are under the square footage, which requires that.
Okay.
But there's some different requirements for commercial where it's gotta be out of sight and stuff like that, rather than right in the front yard or on a side yard, which some of these are at this point.
Yeah, so it could affect some of them that are on the businesses that are already in place, because they do sit on the side of their businesses or are visible from the street, like Carolyn said. So I don't know,
That would fall under the same premise of what we're
you know.
doing.
So this isn't just gonna affect the residents, this is also gonna affect the business owners that have them in their,
It won't affect them to the effect where they have to remove them, it's just they're gonna have to make sure it's fenced in or enclosed or in their back property where it's not up to the front of the property where it's out there for God and country to see.
There's a fair number of those around, probably more than there are houses with them.
So I'm gonna use Matt Wendell, for example, on this, just because Matt's got a bunch of them back there. Does that affect what he's done back there on any of that? And the only reason I ask is, and the reason I brought up the concrete is he's got all of his sitting on concrete back there, which made me think, okay, on the commercial side, are we requiring these people to have them
His-
sitting on concrete?
his are not sitting on concrete. He has concrete pads they are sitting on.
Yes.
So underneath all of them is just dirt. He ran
A footing for them to
a
sit
footing
on.
from the front and on the back, and then his are all concrete out in front, like a nice storage. So they're not gonna make a mess when they're going
Because
in
we
and
just
out.
approved the extension with that bridge under the same pretense that he was gonna do what he was gonna do up top. That won't affect him on the other side of it, I guess?
No, cause there's no road back there either.
Okay, because with the bridge and everything?
He's also
Okay.
listed as, he's in an
Our,
I,
that's coming up on the P and Z meeting
yeah, I
Wednesday
don't remember
night.
what it is. No, it's B2, if I remember right.
B2,
But
yes.
that's also behind his main road is Highway 30. So
Okay.
that's behind all of that and won't be a problem.
Okay,
And that bridge is a private road too, so won't be a problem for that.
What about like the hospital that has one in their parking lot, for example? It's on the back side of the hospital. That doesn't affect it then?
Well,
And there's others like that too, but that
the
one,
business district has a different set of rules.
Right.
So they can still keep it, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they just couldn't have it in the front of their,
Right.
Well, what are they zoned? What's the hospital zone?
Hospitals don't necessarily have a
I
zoning.
know, that's what I'm saying, so this
It wouldn't
won't
fit.
impact them.
Doesn't
Yeah.
affect them.
They aren't zoned industrial.
okay.
And the commercial, remember, they lowered the first 150,000 of total assessed valuation to what, right, Laura, to what residential?
Yes.
owners, so that's significant.
All right, any other discussion on this? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna look for a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance, limiting the use of temporary portable storage containers as it was presented.
So moved.
Carolyn,
Second.
and was it? Okay. Your voices sound a little bit alike.
I know, I'm still.
No, no, not Carolyn and Kyle, these two.
Thank you. Oh, jeez.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's move to a roll call vote, please.
Shrek? Yes. Bornero?
Either yours is.
I'm gonna abstain
Potential conflict.
on the grounds that the conflict of interest. Yeah. Oh.
Have what?
Potential conflict of interest.
Okay.
Bauer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, let's move on to resolutions. The first one is Merchants Park Baseball Stadium Project. Chad, is that for you, or which one?
Either one.
Okay,
Basically, all this is just an endorsement for us in region, or not Region 12, but the Carroll Athletic Association to go after the CAT grant. I believe that is in the realm of around a $209,000 grant. Basically, we take these as resolutions. That way it kind of stamps approval of the city when it goes to whichever funding agency it's going in front of. That would be the IEDA in this case, so.
any discussion on this item? Okay, let's look for a motion now to approve the Community Attractions and Tourism CAT grant application for the Merchants Park Baseball Stadium Project, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's go with Kyle and JJ. Did I miss it again?
together.
Actually, it was JJ. And, I'm sorry, it was Laverne.
Laverne, okay.
me change my voice?
All right, let's go to a roll call vote, please.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Shrek? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
All right, moving on to reports, we have one report on the Carroll Recreation Center Improvement Project, 2021, change order number 9.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, this is just another find that we came across in construction progress. Basically, when the stairwell wall on the south side of the gym area, on the exterior part of the building, the existing photo eye was covered up. It was never found in any of the actual specific, like engineering plans, because it was ran mainly through masonry and dealt with in the exterior piece of the building. So, really, it's a pretty quick fix, quick turnaround on it. The amount for it is $625 total dollars, which upon approval would still leave $87,173 remaining for our contingency fee. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, our recommendation would be the approval of change order number 9.
Any extra discussion for this? All right, I'd look for a motion then to approve change order number 9, the amount of $625 for the Carroll Recreation Center Improvement Project 2021.
So moved.
JJ moved it,
Second.
and second by Jason. Roll call vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Shrek? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you very much. And next, we're going to go to our police vehicle purchase.
Thank you, Mayor.
Brad.
Okay, I hinted at this at the budget discussion last week, but we got notification on January 18th that our vehicle purchase from October of last year was going to be delayed due to production issues. And we're no longer able to get a 24 model year, which is what we had ordered. But it sounds like Ford is going to honor the price, and Kyle may be able to give me the correct on this, but talking to the one of the salesmen down at New Way, they're gonna honor the price, and we also will get priority build on the 24 model. So we won't need to make any action to order a 25 model, but we won't see any production or delivery and expected until the fall of this year. We, again, have been working on getting cars for the last 2 or 3 years with no luck. I was talking with the sheriff, and I learned that Carroll Chevrolet does have pickups, and I was notified today that they have the one that they're holding for us on their lot today. So the next step I did was to reach out to them and get some quotes and find out if this was something that would work for us. We have looked at buying a pickup for a while to add to our fleet, mainly to use for hauling items. We get bikes, animal cages, we carry ladders when we put up surveillance equipment and things like that. So it would be beneficial for us, as the Explorers really don't have room for those types of things. I typically take my truck out to do that activity. So I did get a quote from them. They are the state bid holder for the Chevy Silverado police vehicles, and their quote for that is $49,448.80. I did not reach any other quotes from anybody else, only because Carl's is the only one who has vehicles on their lot and actually has made orders. So they have 100 of them, and 50 of them are white, 25 black, and 25 in silver or gray or some other color. We'll be getting a black one to match our fleet. So my ask for you is to waive purchase policy number 501 due to only having one quote, and approve the purchase from Carroll Chevrolet for a 24 Chevy Silverado PPV for the price of $49,448.80.
So moved.
So Brad, quick question on this. Was Motor Inn able to get us an idea, or if they were?
I did reach out to Motor Inn, actually before I knew Carl's even had them, just to kind of see what they had available or what they would be able to do. And they have none ordered, and so the order block is closed, so they will not be able to get a 24 model.
Okay.
But they were going to work on future ones if we wanted any quotes from them. But
And the only reason I asked is because I spent millions of dollars making that building out there look better.
And we try to keep local, of course. We try to keep our police vehicles local.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to that. This is what we had happen to us a year or so ago. And we went out to a Des Moines agency, and then they weren't able to fulfill the order either. So in this case, we feel very confident, especially hearing today that our truck is sitting there waiting for us. So we'll be able to pick one up probably later this week or next week and get working on our exchange.
I just have a request. Can we see it once it gets here?
Yes.
Like, I guess the public can come and look at it. Like,
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind
and
of
it'll
neat to
be-
see these things, so.
It's the sheriff's department has a Chevrolet one. They've had it for I'm going to say a year, but it may not be that long, and they've had no issues with it. So we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to
Makes
get
it
by with
easier to
pretty well.
spend that much money when you get to see the final result.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is they're all that expensive.
Oh, I know. You just get to see a tangible thing then.
Of course.
Brad, I know, like, with working in the automotive industry, has the government done anything to push these electric vehicles? I'm not saying that this, say, electric truck is the answer, because I'm not 100% sold on it either, but.
No. We haven't
I
got
look-
any, there's been no push that we've received as far as buying electric vehicles. So no grants that are available. I'm assuming whatever's open to the consumer, the normal public, is what we would see too. I can't confirm that because I've never seen anything, so I don't have a good answer for that.
And the only reason I bring that up is what the schools are doing with these school buses. I think Manning and
Yeah, see, Manning got the
another
all-electric
one
bus.
around have electric school buses, and I think they were paid for 100%.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't seen that come by this way yet. When they do, we'll look at those. We have the hybrid Explorers, which we're going to continue to purchase, so that's kind of a delay too. If we wanted to get an EcoBoost or the other motor, those availabilities will be a little bit quicker. I don't know how much quicker that would be, but we decided we'll wait for the hybrid to come out again, mainly because we're seeing a little bit less service with them, and our fuel usage has went down by half with the hybrids.
A year ago, the government came out with the busing stuff, so even for city buses, you can come out with electric vehicles. But we don't have a busing system, so.
And that could come. I expect in the future we'll see some push for that.
Yeah, I just know the push that they're having on these things. Didn't know if I haven't seen anything on the Ford side of things, but, if another automaker has something, I think
I
it's
haven't
worth
seen anything.
looking.
I know some of the agencies in California are going with Teslas, but I haven't seen any of those around Iowa, and I haven't had any contact with anybody to say that there any funding for those yet.
Anything else?
It works so good in the winter.
Tom, if you'd like to make that motion, I would like
So
to have
moved.
you do that.
Second.
Motion to approve, yes.
All right, Tom and Jason is our second, and roll call vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Ordinary?
Yes.
Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda is our fiscal year 2024-25 budget discussion. And Aaron.
Well, after we had our two budget sessions last week discussing our budget, the finance staff is looking to finalize what the council wants us to put into the budget as we get ready to start having our public hearings and our reports into the state for the finalization of the budget. So I would like to have, there were a couple topics that council discussed. Where are my notes on this? And I'd like to finalize those, but otherwise I would like to finalize the budget as presented. The first two comments or topics that I think we need to discuss was the CCGP funding. They had asked for their, I'm going to say for lack of a better term, they had asked for their funding to remain the same at $102,000 from last fiscal year. However, that $20,000 of that was for administration of the retail coach. Talking with Kimberly at CCGP, she is comfortable with going back to the $82,000, which matches what the county is supporting. And I would recommend that the council make that motion to put that CCGP's funding at the $82,000 and change. I don't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head.
So moved.
Second.
Wait,
We're gonna do each
do we have
one at
any
a time?
discussion
Well,
here?
there's only a couple.
We also need the exact amount, I suppose, or make a motion, do we not?
I only have
82,400.
82,004.
And I think the county's was 87,000. That's not a match.
Oh,
That doesn't make any difference to us.
Okay, so it'd be 82,400 if we wanted to make that change to the preliminary budget.
just one other topic to discuss, or just for information for the council. Kimberly and I are going to be working on essentially a position replacing that position. It's going to be a little bit more of a community planning / economic development director, so there will be some different funding discussed. It'll actually be more of a funding out of the urban renewal area rather than out of our general fund. That'll be a little bit different, but that'll be coming down the road outside of this discussion.
So it'll be for next year's budget.
Well, it could come in this next fiscal year, which would require depending on how fast we get it done, but that'll require a budget amendment, but it
So,
could
I
come.
think we're all open for discussion on it. I mean,
Yes.
we ultimately want them to do well, so,
That's all I have for that topic.
All right, I'd look for a motion to change that to 82,400 as discussed.
second.
Tom and Jason, second. Roll call vote, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Shrek. Yes. Cornero.
Yes.
The next item was the airport vehicle. In the budget, it's budgeted for a lease at $6,600. I did talk to Greg Seaman today about the use of the taxi cab. It has been used before and it was not very successful because of timing and other uses within the city. So he did not feel that using the taxi cab as a reliable or as a consistent vehicle for folks that flew in there would be successful. So I guess at this point in time, without having any more discussion, I'd probably recommend leaving the $6,600 for this year and looking at something for the near future, unless council wanted to look at funding that courtesy car in a different direction.
We wouldn't need a motion or anything, sir. If there isn't any discussion, we'll just
No,
move on.
well, I just need to, the $6,600 is per year is what we're doing, so, you know, when you wanna make a change with with, businesses or places that have boards like, CCGP and that you need to go to those people and talk to them. So I went to them over and over again and talked about possibly buying like approximately a $30,000 vehicle. Cause we were thinking about giving them a police car, which is like 10,000, so we're looking at additional 20,000. And only being 3,000 to 5,000 miles a year, that thing could last 10 years pretty easily, Arnold. And in 3 years, our payback is already done, considering if we use a $6,600 figure. So from there on, it's really no expense, and that's general fund. And, we don't have to worry about this now, because if we do that, we could use local option sales tax to pay for that, and you can do that anytime during the year. But in the future, the 6,600 will be taken off the general fund, so you'll save that much.
But you'll save that on property tax rather than using a use tax. Like use tax of local option sales tax compared to the property tax,
Exactly.
which is.
So
out
I
of
also
the
did
general.
I did some research on this too, and a lot of these airports are going to whoever provides the fuel, I think it's the FBO, I think it is. The FBO is also responsible for the courtesy car as well. It's not coming out of the taxpayers' dollars. I don't know if we have gone down that route, but that's what a lot of these airports are doing. So to say that the city is paying for these cars in all these towns is not really an accurate statement. They're obviously making money off the fuel and all that kind of stuff of providing the fuel. So as a service, what they do is, as a kickback, is they also provide a transportation car of, and so now instead of making $1 a gallon or whatever they are, they're making 75 cents and they're providing a service to the airport. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but have we even gone down that road to entertain that?
I haven't had that discussion.
Okay.
The airports I'm familiar with, the city has provided the car. So I haven't heard that yet, but that's.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them that the FBO actually provides them, so.
Well, different airports have different contracts, and it's fixed base operator. And so that would involve looking at Don's contract, because that's his private business. And they contract with him, and that's in their budget when you see contract. In fact, they're talking about his contract tonight. So every FBO handles people very differently, and it depends on their qualifications. Don is probably one of the most sought-after FBO people in the state because of all of his licensures and he lives at the airport. And, they're all different because where they live, their contracts with the specific town. So it would take.
Yeah, so this is definitely not an attack on him. He's an awesome.
No,
This
not
is
at all.
just simply that an open dialogue of there are other avenues of approach to pay for this vehicle that airports are using. I'm not diminishing what he does on a daily basis, weekly basis,
I know
monthly,
that.
or
But
yearly.
Jason,
But there
I
are different
think-
ways that we can do that. I think that it's valid for transparency reasons to know that other airports are doing this other way than just to say, hey, the city is the only one that pays for it, because that's not an accurate statement.
Well-
And so I just want to make sure that we have all the information that
Right.
is delivered before we just have part of it.
And a part of that piece would be you going to the airport commission and asking them the specifics, or showing you in the spirit of transparency, have them show you a copy of Don's contract with them, so you see what's going on.
Yeah, I definitely have,
Yeah.
I definitely plan on going up there to speak to him. I just want it to be known to council that some of these other places do it a different way. And so I think that in order to make a justified or valued vote, you need to know all of the options that are out there versus just some of the options,
Exactly
so.
what I did with this idea
That's
about
what-
the
Oh, yeah.
vehicle.
Yes, so,
But-
okay.
But you gotta go out there and talk to them and get their support on it, and then, like, I brought that back, last meeting, so it gives us time, we don't have to, do this for however long we want, because it's not in the budget, once we set the budget, we can never increase it, but we can take that 6,600 out.
You can't increase the
You can't
expenses
increase-
going
Yeah.
out.
Jason, you could
budget
ask
amendment,
Greg
or
about
you're
it.
set- Or once you set the budget, you're setting the levy.
Yeah.
And you can't change that for that particular year until next year, yeah.
Do
Jason,
we
yeah.
currently get the van is from Wood Trucks, yeah? Have we asked them what it would cost to buy the van that they currently use for that?
I don't know,
It's-
I think
it's-
they rotate their vehicles.
I don't think
They
it's
don't use a
van.
consistent
Yeah.
vehicle? Sorry, I guess I said van, I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
vehicle,
Yeah,
Vehicle.
yeah.
But we do pay for the insurance on that.
Yep.
What we rent.
Yep.
So if we bought a vehicle, the insurance is even across the board. So we're not paying anything extra because we buy a vehicle, we pay the insurance.
And so are you suggesting that we buy the vehicle and we still pay the insurance on this?
We still do now. We pay the insurance on what we rent from Wood Truck.
So yes, so I'm gonna buy a vehicle and insure a vehicle.
You're already insuring it.
We're already.
Right now I am, but if I say I'm not sending a car out there at that point in time, then I'm not insuring anything. correct?
You're buying insurance on that monthly rental that we.
Okay, I'm saying if I remove that though, and if I remove that $6,800, I'm not paying any insurance on anything. I'm not on that vehicle.
No, the $6,600 is the rent of the vehicle. We pay the insurance on that anyway, over and above the $6,600.
But once I remove this $6,800, what am,
One less
I'm,
vehicle
that's
that's
one
being
less vehicle,
insured,
that's
is
one
what
less
he's saying.
vehicle
Well, they're
being
gonna have
insured.
to- We gotta supply them a vehicle.
Is there like a law or order that states that I have to supply them with a vehicle?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
have a question, it's probably more insurance based, but like, if somebody takes that vehicle, are they signing some kind of agreement that limits the city from liability? If I get in an accident and kill somebody, does that come back on the city, or does that go back on the person driving it?
We insure that way.
So I think that's something we need to look at first, regardless. Because I just went through a similar situation like this at the dealership. So. I think
Like
regardless
if
if
somebody
we,
borrows it, well, what happens then, when someone is test driving a car and they have, I'm sure this has happened.
yeah, yep.
Whose insurance, that goes back on the dealership, right?
All depends who's at fault, but yeah, and then it's a nightmare. So,
I guess my other question
and you
is,
think somebody in the public, you talk about insurance, and they think city, they're thinking a big payday.
oh yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that I have is that now we're getting a new truck. We have a Ford Explorer, correct? I know that it's a Ford Explorer, right? And this thing's only getting 3,200 miles put on it a year. Why don't we just send that Ford Explorer out there instead of buying another car when we have a car? Is where I'm at. I still, that's what I guess I don't really
That's a conversation
understand.
you're gonna have to go and talk to them to find out if that will work.
And I think that we've sat here and talked to it almost of nauseum at this point of this vehicle. We really have, like, with the presentation and everything else. I'm just not, I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this, of providing them a vehicle or not. They made it evidently clear that they did not want a police car. So that alleviated the problem or the solution that we had. So my thing is, at this point, then you have to solve the solution on your own instead of me.
So I'm change the subject slightly, but I'm just wondering, who's the closest airport that has this, arrangement where is there one nearby?
They're kind of all over the place. I mean, you can look it up online, you can do anything like that. That in a lot of these places is that they ultimately, that's who provides the vehicle. I'm not saying that's the answer.
Right.
Personally, I don't think that the taxpayers should pay for a vehicle at all at the airport.
So there isn't
That's
any
my-
around here that we can
my
talk to
personal
about
thing.
it?
I could do the research and call each and every single one of them, which I will do if you would like to. I can do each one
Certainly
of
need
who
that. I just-
kind of provides it.
No, we
but-
don't need that.
Yeah,
I don't.
but there are, and she's agreed that there are airports out there that ultimately, now you don't know, okay. But
I-
earlier she did agree with it, and so,
No,
yes.
Jason, I did not. I just said FBOs, they all have different contracts with their airport commissions. But if you want to ask Greg, he knows way more about it than I do. I didn't agree or disagree. I just said everybody contracts differently.
So
I make a
Are we-
motion to just to vote on the removal of the vehicle, from the budget.
You
The
said you
68
want to make a
A
motion to that
motion,
effect?
yes.
The
so just remove the
$6,600.
$6,600 from the budget, and then we can discuss other avenues of approach, whether it be a police car or something like that.
All right, is there a second to that? Okay, there's no second to that, so we won't do it at this time.
I think it makes sense for us to look at purchasing something. If we look at a $30,000 vehicle, and there's gonna be some government price concessions on, say, a van. You have that paid for in 4.5 years. And you're gonna probably run that thing for 10 years or so, and you still have something in the end. Right now, we're just throwing money out the window, and we're still paying for insurance.
And the other thing is we can use local option sales tax to pay for that and save this in our general fund.
Right.
So my motion would be, you leave it in there, leave this in there for now, but you get the ball rolling on looking at purchasing a vehicle.
Yeah, we don't really.
We don't need a motion then, but
Yeah,
just
we
sort of
don't
a
need a
guidance
motion,
here
but
for
that's
Aaron.
guidance.
We won't even need a motion, because that's already in the budget.
Just keep the money there
Okay.
and then figure
We'll
it
work on
out.
it
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think look at purchasing, move towards purchasing a vehicle for that.
Are we
It
gonna
pays
put a
for-
cap on that? Like,
It's already,
Of course, there's a cap on what we would spend.
I think we get the specs. Hey, what specs do we want for a vehicle? You know, is it a car? Is it an SUV? Is it a van? Doesn't have to be anything loaded up, but get something.
Not a Geo, not a Cadillac.
Yeah,
But
so
a
get
Chevy.
something.
So being I initially started this, I will work with the airport people, and then I'll bring back a report for everybody.
What do they use out there
Sounds
right
good.
now? What's the vehicle that they're using?
what do you have now, Greg, for a vehicle that we're,
Oh, boy.
No, keep it short.
you're coming up, just give your name for the people that are
I'm
listening.
Greg Seaman. I'm a member of the Carroll Airport Commission. We have a meeting tonight, and I came in specifically at the direction of the commission to answer any questions that the council has about the airport car.
So what,
So what are we driving right now? What are you using right now? What kind of
It's
vehicle?
a older Chrysler, I'm not sure if it's a Dodge, Chrysler, or Plymouth. It's a Chrysler product, minivan.
Okay,
And it's approximately 10 years old. We've had it for quite a while. A van really works well, because sometimes people coming into town have more than 5 or 6 people. And also, some of those people, if they're going to a funeral or a wedding, we have elderly people coming into town, that a van works better than something like a Ford Explorer. And that's why we have a van. It's essential that we have transportation. I know that Jason was talking about cab fare. We've tried that. It just does not work. You have 3 or 4 executives going over to Farmland Foods in Denison for a 3-hour meeting, and they call the cab and it doesn't come to the Carroll Airport for 30 to 45 minutes. It hauls them over to Denison, drops them off. Then when they're ready to go, we have another problem, because what if the cab's tied up, then it takes 30 or 45 minutes to get over there? It just doesn't work. It does not work. We've been there, done that. I know you.
I passed that on to Greg.
I
Yeah,
know that
they
you
know,
asked Jason to talk to us, I believe so, individually. Nobody on the airport commission has been talked to by you. We could have filled you in on how this works, Jason, but apparently you didn't want the information.
Well, we actually did sit down in your office the other day. I appreciate that.
We talked only, you came to my office, we talked only briefly. You were looking for my wife.
You're right. So we did speak. So you do know who I am, first of all. I want to clarify that we did talk about the airport, and you gave me your spiel on the airport. So to tell me that nobody knew who I was over there, you knew who I was. Thank you, though.
okay. So any other questions for Greg now about it?
I got just one question, because I think weird, but do other airports ever charge for courtesy cars?
No.
None,
Typically
zero.
not, but what I always do, when I use a courtesy car at some airport, I'll give them $20 or
Right.
something like that, or fill it full of gas or whatever, just so I don't abuse the privilege of having been.
I'm just asking if,
Yeah.
because I'm new to this part of it, the airport and the courtesy car, but who pays for it? I just wondered if other airports do it, whether it be regional, smaller, larger. Do they
Well-
charge for that stuff?
All the county seat airports in northwest Iowa that I go to, that there's no charge for the courtesy car. Now, Spencer does not have a courtesy car because they have rental cars available through a couple of dealers in Spencer. That's a different deal. Also, Des Moines, if you go to like Signature Aviation in Des Moines or Elliott Aviation in Des Moines, they have rent-a-cars available. But then you have Uber, you have
Right.
cabs. You have things that they don't have in small towns. It's a problem in some airports because I go to Clarion frequently, I go to Eagle Grove frequently. I have to have somebody pick me up because they don't even have a courtesy car.
Sure. I'm just asking.
Sure.
Has that ever been entertained that you would charge for it? Whether it be $1 or $2 per people? I don't know. See, I don't know if you charge them to come in or charge them to leave or how it works.
I don't think that would cover the cost, but the people that call and request a courtesy car at the Carroll Airport are really their first call is, can we rent a car in Carroll?
Okay.
They're not asking you to use a free car. They're asking, what is the availability of rental cars? That's the typical.
So they're offering to pay.
I'm sorry?
They're offering to pay for a
They
car.
But we make no charge for the rental car, because if we charge for the rental car, that changes the insurance situation. And ICAP has said they did not want us to do that. That's my understanding. We haven't talked about that tonight. We're not allowed to charge $50 to use a rent-a-car, $20, $25. Now, we can take a free will donation, and we do, but we can't charge for it because our insurance, the city's insurance company will not permit that type of arrangement, because that puts us in a different category of being in the rent-a-car business. They don't want to do that.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Anything else?
Yeah, just one. When you're using the courtesy car, is it usually the executives that are using it, or is it like the flight crews? I guess I'm trying to understand if Pella has a
I
plane.
would say, JJ, it's both.
Okay.
Just depends.
I didn't know, like, I mean, I guess I just assumed like Smithfield would send a car to pick up whoever they had, and same with like Pella or Farner.
Okay, and I'll talk about that. Rockwell Collins will generally send somebody out to pick up people coming into Rockwell Collins. Cormac, same thing. Pella, same thing. But then other people that come in don't always have an appointment with somebody. We have a lot of people coming in who are looking at something in Carroll. We don't know what, but I remember the big grocery company, Pubex, from Publix, or however you pronounce it, from the southeastern part of the United States, flew in here in a big corporate jet one day. Didn't say anything, didn't have an appointment with anybody. They just wanted to look at Carroll, apparently. We had one, on another occasion, a large corporate jet came in with about a dozen Korean engineers. And they wanted to go to Iowa Corn Processing and look at their operation, unannounced. We get a lot of that kind of traffic that simply shows up, and we don't know where they came from, don't know who they are, but they want to look at something in Carroll.
So are you familiar with the app? Do you travel quite a bit with the app Turo? It's an app called Turo. This is what businesses are using now. It's called rideshare instead of calling for a cab and stuff like that. Well, they'll deliver a car to anywhere you're at, and they'll pick you up. You can take the car for 35. There's 5 of them within a 50-mile radius of us that will literally drop the car off at the airport. Somebody picks them up. You take the car forever. You leave the car at the airport, and then so to tell us that there's no way to rent a car here or anything else like that, that's based kind of on false pretenses, because there are avenues of approach that you can rent cars in this area where somebody will bring the car to you. You take the car for 2, 3, 4 days, and then they bring it back. And so,
I've never heard of it.
okay, well, and just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it is there. I've
never heard anybody in the aviation industry ever mention it, discuss it, or ever heard of it.
Well, I assume at one point in time, you never heard anyone mention Uber either, but I mean, it's a massive conglomerate now. So there are 5 vehicles within our local area, from Fort Dodge to down near, where you can grab a car, they'll bring the car to you, they'll leave it there, you can take the car for 4 days, and this is what a lot of these people that are traveling now, whenever you go on vacation, that they're ultimately
Right.
using. And so there is that option to rent cars.
I want to remind everybody that the airport commission operates the airport. Now, everybody can talk about you should do this, or you should do that, or you should do something else, but that decision is our decision, according to the Iowa code, and we will continue to operate that airport the way we see fit. And we believe that the present arrangement with Whitrock's, and that was the low bid, the only bid we had, works. It would also work to follow Laverne Dirks's suggestion that we look into the procurement of a car for the airport's use. That would also work, and we're happy to discuss those things, but we run the airport. And these wild goose suggestions that we try something different that nobody ever heard of, we're not gonna do that. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So we don't have a motion to change that.
There's no other, do you have anything else to bring up that we had
Anything-
questions on? I don't believe we do.
That's not in the,
Yeah, the last one was the request for the band shell, and that's not in the budget at this point, so.
No, and the reason it isn't in the budget is because the proposal, the ask, on the 5th of February was the result of the Carroll Historic Preservation Commission's deciding that they would commit to fundraising and applying for grants, and that meeting was January 31st. We are required to have a project every year. We voted on the band shell, and you read the proposal of the ask from the Historic Preservation Commission that I handed out on the 5th. And Vicki wants to update you on where we're at with considering grants and so on. So we're still asking for that to be imported, or Laverne, you may have, or.
I think we
What-
should get this done first. 'Cause
I'm fine
I'll
with
make the
this.
motion to go ahead and
And you want to
table
approve?
this. I mean, I don't think that we can commit to that at this point without having the
So-
engineering stuff back.
So we can't table it, because when you
Or
table,
not
yeah,
table it.
so yeah, what I would,
You talking the band shell?
Yeah.
I was referring that that's not part of the budget, we should get the
No.
budget part of it first.
We want to, if we want to talk about that, we're going to approve this budget discussion first.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do?
No, I just think that we need to wait for engineering to come back. We've talked about this is the
that's for
third
the
week in a
band shell,
row.
but for
Yeah.
the budget,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so we want to, Vicki, we're going to let you talk here in a second, but just for a few minutes. Because it's getting long tonight, but we're looking for a motion to finalize the 2024-25 preliminary budget as presented with,
And discussed it to this.
and discussed this evening. Is there a motion? All right. JJ motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And Laverne second it. A roll call vote, please.
Ordinary,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes,
Bauer,
Yes.
Atherton.
No.
Motion is approved 5-1.
Okay. Vicki, come on up front and discuss this, as it is an interesting topic, but we'll need to be brief because it's toward the end of this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Gatz from the Carroll Historic Preservation Commission, and Carolyn did present this information previously, but just to let you know where we're at right now. The commission did decide that they would be willing to fundraise to raise it at 50% of the cost, and the cost we were given as of December 12th, 2023 was $150,000 to bring the band shell back into functional use. The commission's goal is to fundraise as quickly as possible, and we already have some individuals and some organizations who are willing to donate for this fund. They have much interest in it. We're also looking at a variety of grants that we can do. The Timmerman and Rinsey Foundation, their applications are available in mid-May, and the recipients are announced in August. So we need to get going on that if we want to get those funds in there. We also are looking at the Union Pacific grant, possibly the Hyder Foundation, the Community Foundation of Carroll County. There are a variety of grants out there, and so we're hoping to get at least $25,000, maybe more for that, and then the commission has agreed to try to raise $50,000 toward this. So what we're asking is for the city council to come up with $75,000 to match that, and if we go over our choice of $50,000 or $75,000 total, then it would decrease what the city would have to give. And what we're hoping is that we would have this commitment from the city council so that we can go out to donors and say, look, this is what the city's willing to give. And if we don't have that and they ask why not, that's going to be a difficult choice to answer, because it is a city project, and most of the projects that have been done in that park have been either completely funded by the city or have been private and public donations that have taken care of that. So it is a very important part of that park, and it's important that we do this quickly because it's already deteriorating further. There's bricks falling out of the front of it, and we need to get some work done on that before it goes any farther downhill.
When's your deadline for application for the grants?
For mid-May, mid-May is when the applications are available for the Timmerman and Rindsey. We're still researching these other ones to find out for sure,
Okay.
but they're basically, like I said, it's sooner rather than later.
How much money total, how much money total have you raised so far?
We have $20,000 so far.
Okay.
I want to add too, you asked when are the grants, that we just located the Union Pacific grant. They gave generously to the hospital a few years ago, and they're called local grants, towns that are on there, along the rail system. They are accepting grants on April 11th.
And are those
And
yearly
they-
grants? Is
pardon
that
me?
a yearly grant, or is that a one and done?
One, and they run from 2,500 to 25,000.
And do they do this every year? They give these
Yes,
grants?
yes.
Okay.
And
I will add that they do have those rounds every single year, but the likelihood of you getting it in the same community, like multiple years or even within a certain amount of window time, is pretty low.
But are we applying for that grant with anything else?
We did apply for it with the merchants and were unsuccessful with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I might add, some grants require a match, others don't. But with just a designation in the hotel motel fund, it will help us raise money. You want us to raise money, you want us to get grants, you're working against us if you don't just put that 75,000 in hotel motel. It doesn't need to be spent, but it sure can help us raise money. And as Vicki said, the more we raise, the less your obligation will be. And if we don't get on this, there will be further degradation. And I have a few points I just want to mention. Code of Iowa, hotel motel, this is a good fit for this project. The code says at least 50% of all the revenues shall be expended for the acquisition of sites or for construction, improving, repairing, recreation, cultural, entertainment facilities. Number two, that's the purpose. Second, the fund revenue is hotel motel. It is generated by people coming to spend their money and time in Carroll. And so that means not a penny comes from a citizen or a taxpayer. It's revenue flowing into Carroll. They're going to purchase things here, they're going to buy gas, they're going to buy food. So this hotel motel, money that's coming in and not a penny is being taken from a resident or a taxpayer, that's all we're asking for. It's not any money coming from any resident per capita or any way you want to look at it. Then the lost budget, and I've had people ask me this, why don't you have the money? And I tell them, we do have the money. The balance right now in our 24 budget that we're in now, 25, this is why we've got to get on these grants. Fiscal year 25 begins July 1 of 2024. So we want to be in the 2024 grant cycle. And right now, we still have in our budget available in the balance for 24, $262,060. In 24, we are showing a balance at the end of fiscal year 25 of $346,217. If you just designate knowing and putting it in writing, it will help us bring money and actually save us money. But by not doing that, you're working at cross purposes with our commission. And if you look at our code, city code, this is one of the things we are given to strive for. It's in our code, the city code. So without the 75,000, we would still have at the end of 25, if there are no other asks, 271,217. So it doesn't have to be spent if after and Chad, when do we expect the engineer's report? It could come after the grant cycle for Timmerman and Renzi. For sure, I would think April 11th, they're starting to take requests for money. I don't know, when do you expect they may show
I
up?
haven't been in contact with them as of late. I know they're waiting for, obviously, warmer weather to come
Sure.
and start doing all the logistical.
But we want to get a strong financial position so that we can do the heavy lifting for the city. And all we ask is that you designate in the hotel motel fund a number, and we will explain, this is what they're, depending on, I know, we need this if you want us to raise money.
So
If
how do you
do-
commit to it then without spending it until we hear the grants come back? So how do you word that?
I think there's three unknowns. You don't know what it's gonna cost to
Right.
fix, you don't know what your.
You're not gonna know if you're
grant
gonna get
money
any
is, and
grants.
And you don't know what you're gonna fundraise.
Right.
I get that. Chad, this wasn't in your budget at all. Are you okay with all this? I mean, it's your
As far as the
department.
work going forward, I mean, yeah, if it's the wish of the council, then we will pursue it 100%.
I think Laverne's asking, is it okay if we just take it out of your budget?
Yeah.
Just
Might have a different
Kidding.
answer at that point.
kidding.
We do not want to do that, Chad.
So I appreciate
Never did beat
all the
around the
work,
bush.
I appreciate all the work that Chad
So
and Carolyn did.
So what I'm getting at is if we wanna have a chance, we can just earmark this 75,000. Put it in there, let Carolyn do her work, come back, and then we gotta wait for the three unknowns.
Yes.
Once we get those three unknowns done, then we can decide if we wanna spend that 75,000 or not. But if we don't give that 75,000 an earmark, we have no opportunity to get the grants this year.
That's what I'm reading through this whole thing. So can
Carolyn,
you earmark it or make the motion and
So what
We
happens
can't do any
once,
motions tonight. We can't do
Okay.
anything.
what happens once
It's
we?
not on the agenda.
What happens once we say we're gonna do the 75,000 and the engineering is 300,000 and we don't wanna give our
Then we say no.
75,000?
then we say no?
So we're just
Then it's
kicking the
done.
can down the road on it?
Well,
I
you're,
guess
you're in a
it's-
catch-22 here. If you don't set the 75,000, you give,
It
them
doesn't
no
give her the
chance at all to do
opportunity
any
to get the
grant
grants.
writing.
So,
And
Yeah.
so then you're done. The whole
But-
I
project's
just think
done.
we should
Your
wait till
answer
the
is-
engineering, and I would second JJ's
But we're
motion
in
just to wait.
she's in a time frame. She
Yeah.
can't do that. She's gotta,
so you're earmarking it, but we're not
But they do
spending it.
this-
no, I know that.
They do
So
this,
we can
they,
bring it back.
they do this grant, just like he said, every single year. So this isn't like an end all. We're in a rush on this year. We're not a rush on next year. I mean, we can play the game of we're under a
Yeah,
time crunch and everything else
that
like
would be a
that.
vote
This
for-
grant is
Feedback.
always there.
That'd be a
So
vote for council.
So how about this, when we can't make a motion now because it's not on the agenda, but we can see if we can get a time frame from the engineer for the next council meeting, and then have an idea to address it as or as a designation for matching funds for grants to not exceed $75,000, and then If it exceeds that, then we can readdress that. But between a $20,000 donation along with $75,000 from the city, I can't imagine we would not be matching all of the grants that we would request. Because typically, I'm going to guess most of these grants are 10 to 25,000, which require a 10% match.
I will add this too. We got good news this weekend. We have brick finders, and the paving bricks that were used from the city streets when they were taken up, that were used on the band shell and also on the enclosed shelter. Somebody has located 1,000 of them. They said, and I was teasing, how many do you want, Carolyn? I said, 1,000. They found them.
Wow.
And somebody is going to donate them, so it will not cost us a penny. We're scroungers. And also, when we went before the commission last Friday to argue for the National Register, all professionals on there, engineers, architects, professors, School of Design, Iowa State, University of Iowa, unanimous to move us forward, all 9, 10, unanimous to move us forward with a few tweaks. They were impressed. We had pictures of everything, the van shell, everything in the park. We had to do that, measure them all. They unanimously passed us, and then they commented on what an outstanding park it is.
Did you ask them for a donation?
I will. I have their names, yes.
Carolyn, just so you know, I did talk to Chad about it today. I'm not completely against it, but I even asked him today, what would it cost to get some paint? I know there's a lot of graffiti and stuff on there, you know what I mean? To temporarily make that look better so that maybe we can get the public opinion to more. And so I think a lot of times you think that I'm just completely against you. Literally today, I was like, hey, can we get that thing sandblasted and painted? And you know what I mean? So it looks good so that we have our best front forward when the engineering cost comes back to say, hey, you know, this is a staple in Carroll. It's because right now it's just an eyesore. There's paint all over this stuff. So I don't like putting the cart before the horse. And so and I got you. That's why I know where I'm at. And so, but I did talk to Chad today about getting a coat of paint on it, and so
We are trying to use Chad's budget as much as possible.
Oh, no, we're done. I'm ready right now.
Stop.
Can I make?
Don't have to.
You don't need to.
Mayor's running it.
No, we're finished with this. Okay, we're gonna move on to, okay, all right. Committee reports, I trust everybody's already read those. There are some comments from the mayor this evening. They'll be brief, I promise. And as we had our Chamber of Commerce Awards banquet recently. And Vicki, you sit down for a second there, please. I'm gonna read off these people should be very proud of winning these awards because they're awards that show that your community's behind you. And I'm gonna read these off. The Heritage Business Award was given to Community Oil with Chico and Todd Canny. The New Business Award was to Bordenero's Meat Market, Tom and Cindy Bordenero. Public Service Award, we're gonna get this applause here in a second for you, because there's comments the next thing is comments from City Council. That's when you get to talk about this, so. All right, Public Service Award, we're fortunate to have Vicki Gatch here tonight, and also Larry Devine. I'm glad you're here just for us to recognize you. Good Neighbor Award, Scott and Cindy Hyder. And the Citizen of the Year Award, which is quite coveted, obviously, is our own city attorney, Dave Bruner. So congratulations, especially to the ones that are here and all the people on this. Congratulations to y'all. Okay, that's me. How about anything from the city council? We're good there. How about the city manager?
Just one quick note. I have been contacted by the proposed new owners of Fairview Village, and I will be meeting with them tomorrow to discuss their plans and what their request is from the city.
Motion to adjourn?
second.
Will they have a hard formal ask? And the only reason I ask that, because we've been through something before.
Right now, I have a paragraph email from them.
Okay, better be good, because they got a lot of work to do.
Long paragraph.
Amen.
All right, I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Jason? Roll call, please.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Shore?
Yes.
Shrek? Yes. Atherton?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.